everyone, and welcome to part 2 of my deep dive into Sana and Akito's relationship. If you missed part 1, please click the link in the description below to catch up on what you missed. In this series, we'll be exploring Sana and Akito's character growth and relationship through each volume of the manga. So for part 2, we will be looking at volume 2, and analyzing how Sana and Akito developed during this part of the story. As always, if there's something I've missed, please comment below with your thoughts. I always enjoy discussing Kodocha with fans and hearing different perspectives on the series. Without further ado, let's take a look at Sana and Akito's development during Kodocha Volume 2. Our story left off with Sana happily watching Akito being carried away by his father, knowing that she had made a difference in their family dynamic. Sana is hopeful that things within the Hayama family have changed for the better. Back at the Hayama residence, Akito and his father have a talk, and Fuyuki tells him that Sana's movie made him really think about everything, and states that he will be coming home and they will have meals together as a family from now on. Akito is very caught off guard by this. After his father leaves the room and Akito starts to watch Sana's movie, we can see that he too is moved by the story of the film. Akito isn't forward with his thoughts like Sana or the other characters of Kodocha, but we can infer a lot of what he is thinking at these crucial moments by his facial expressions and the level of surprise by the change in his father's attitude. Akito recognizes that the lines from the movie were the same that Sana recited to him the night before, when she was pretending to be his mother. Akito rewinds the tape to get another look at Sana, seemingly amazed by her image alone. At this point, I think it's obvious that Akito is starting to develop romantic feelings for Sana. However, this is not the only emotion that can be inferred by the expression on Akito's face during this scene. As I said before, he looks at her with a sense of amazement, almost disbelief. There is a softness in his eyes that we have not yet seen before. This represents a shift in him, just like the change that occurred in his father. I also think that this change in his father's attitude towards him and the family probably made Akito feel a stronger sense of safety as well, giving him the chance to finally let his guard down and open up a little bit more to the people around him. This moment is our first glimpse into how Akito will change throughout the series. Starting off as a quote-unquote lone wolf shut off from his own emotions and other people in his life to becoming a young man who embraces his best qualities and allows it to strengthen his connections to everyone around him. The next day at school, Sana gives him the embarrassing photo back. He is extremely relieved and makes sure to let Sana know that there is nothing she can do to stop him from causing trouble, even though Akito seems to be at a loss for words for what trouble to cause next in the classroom. As Tsuyoshi and Akito are walking home from school, the two discuss the change in Akito's dad, as well as Tsuyoshi's feelings for Sana. In confirmation of what we already know, Tsuyoshi's declaration of love for Sana prompts Akito to tell him that they are rivals. Of course, this is Akito subtly telling him that he too wants to be with Sana romantically. Tsuyoshi doesn't catch this at first, but I think he does know what he said, but he just wanted to be certain that the word was rivals. Meanwhile, Sana joins fellow actress Asako for an interview, where Asako seems very interested in her manager Rei. Sana tells Asako that she made Rei her boyfriend after finding him homeless on the street a long time ago, and that a woman ruined his life and that's how he ended up that way. Asako is horrified and goes to find Rei after the interview, when Sana realizes that she is after her quote-unquote boyfriend. Asako finally confronts Rei and asks if Sana is really his girlfriend and says he doesn't care what anyone thinks, and that is how it is because Sana wants it to be that way. We will find out more about this later in Volume 2, but at this point we get an understanding of how Sana perceives romantic love, which is very naive and childish. I admit, first-time readers might be suspicious of Rei and concerned for Sana due to the age gap, but luckily we find out the truth behind it all pretty early on. Sana's relationship with Rei has a huge impact on her growth and understanding of love throughout the series, which we will explore more as things unfold throughout the story. During this event with Rei and Asako, Akito and Tsuyoshi are hanging out in Akito's room, and Tsuyoshi brings up Akito's rival comment from the day before. He wants to confirm that that's what Akito said to him, and asks him to choose between him or a girl. Akito immediately chooses a girl, but begins to ponder Sana's relationship with Rei, and the two boys speculate whether or not it's real since Rei is an adult male. Akito concludes that they need to worry about Rei, meaning he wants to get Rei out of the picture since he is currently a perceived threat in the eyes of the boys. It's a funny moment that also shows Akito's lack of maturity when it comes to the subject of love, something he has in common with Sana, but in a different way. Sana then finds out that Rei had been together with Asako in the past romantically, and is shocked and disgusted by this revelation. Asako accidentally breaks Rei's sunglasses, and Sana gives him a pair of funny glasses so his eyes are still hidden, since Sana believes his eyes are too handsome to be seen by anyone else. Rei and Sana eventually get back to the Kurata household and talk about what happened. Rei tells her that Asako means nothing to him anymore and tells Sana that she is his number one, when shortly after he leaves, Sana discovers Rei's secret stash of Asako magazine clippings and photographs. The next day at school, Tsuyoshi confronts Sana about her relationship with Rei, when Akito overhears and tells Sana that Rei isn't really her boyfriend and he is just toying with her. Akito also says that Rei doesn't see Sana as a real woman because he already has a woman, which prompts Sana to reflect on the previous confrontation with Asako. Akito and Tsuyoshi run into Rei after school, when Akito forcefully gets into Rei's car and Tsuyoshi tells him that they need to have a talk. Akito is immediately hostile with Rei, believing the man is truly up to something terrible regarding Sana. At the coffee shop, Akito and Tsuyoshi ask Rei about his relationship with Sana, where he explains that he acts as her boyfriend because he owes her everything in life, and that Sana wants him to be her boyfriend and does it as payment for all that she has done for him. Rei says that because Sana takes him seriously, he takes her seriously even though she is just a child. Akito is hurt enough at this point and gets up to leave, seemingly more irritated by Rei than before. Akito is offended that Rei is humoring Sana just because she is a kid, and glares at Rei, stating that he shouldn't underestimate children just because they are, well, children. This statement is important as it brings up the main theme presented throughout Volume 2. Children are a lot more intelligent than we give them credit for, as well as perceptive. While Akito's jealousy and anger towards Rei clouds his ability to understand Rei's perception on the matter, I still think that out of all the characters at this point in the story, Akito has the most mature outlook on reality. It shows in his understanding that children know more than the adults are willing to believe. Once Sana gets home from school, she goes to her diary and reads about the time when she first met Rei and brought him home. Before meeting Rei, Sana would sneak behind her mother's back and read her novels, the main one being The Gigolo and I, the book she wrote about her ex-husband. Sana describes the book as dirty, but also seems intrigued by the idea of having her own gigolo. For those who are unaware, a gigolo is basically a young man who is paid or financially supported by a typically older woman to be her companion. This can be open to interpretation, but I think Sana at this age doesn't fully understand what this term means, and simply believes it's just a boyfriend or husband that she can support with money. While Sana's perception of love is mainly shaped by her interactions with Rei, it's also important to bring up Masako's influence as well. Through Masako's marriage to a man who depended on her financially, it probably shaped Sana's view of what marriage or romantic relationships are supposed to look like. Sana gets joy from her quote-unquote relationship with Rei because she is financially supporting him, something she believes is needed for a relationship to be successful. At this point in the story, one could argue that Sana might even have a somewhat materialistic view of love, feeling that she needs to buy someone's affection. This is an aspect of her character I feel isn't touched on much throughout Kodocha, since it's more of a theory than a fact. But I can't help but think that it could be part of the reason why she seems so excited by the idea of taking care of a man using money. This is probably a far-fetched theory, but one I wanted to throw out there and let viewers think about as we continue to look at her growth throughout the series. Sana and her class are going to go on a field trip to the Tokyo Metro office, which is a very tall building downtown, much to the dismay of Akito, who is afraid of heights. Sana teases him about this at first, but feels bad for him when he is very queasy riding the elevator. Sana and her friends look at the city of Tokyo from a big window when she notices Heisei is drinking a soda. Sana decides to get one for Akito to make him feel better, as he is trying to calm himself down on a nearby bench. As Sana brings the soda over to him, she trips and spills it all over. Sana quickly gets up and wipes the soda off of him, very upset and embarrassed, when suddenly Akito moves forward and kisses Sana on the lips. A moment many readers, as well as Sana, probably didn't see coming, since this is only Volume 2. When I first saw this moment in the anime, I was very caught off guard by it. However, rereading this volume for the purpose of my video series, I see now that this is a very obvious and intentional scene, and very subtly foreshadowed in Volume 1. As I mentioned in my previous video, Akito starts to form a maternal attachment to Sana after she pretends to be his mother and fixes his family problems. In that video, I also discuss how his older sister Natsumi failed to take on that maternal role for him, which is how Sana fills that role for him in the first place. How Sana reacts to Akito's discomfort on the highest floor of the office building is very motherly. She takes notice of his reaction and wants to soothe him by getting him a soda. Akito sees that she wants to take care of him, and probably felt so overwhelmed by his emotions that he needed to kiss her. After all, Akito is a character prone to showing his emotions through actions as opposed to words like Sana. What was once a shocking, unexpected kissing scene at first glance is really just another example of Abana's amazing talent at foreshadowing while maintaining a sense of uncertainty when it comes to what happens next. Intentional or not, there is a lot of subtlety in every aspect of Kodocha's storytelling, and Abana is able to shine a light on a lot of the hidden aspects of the human psyche and how people interact in general. It's such a simple situation. Sana getting Akito a soda because he's bothered by getting up so high, but to Akito, this means everything to him. No one had ever treated him with tenderness like that before. To have someone care enough to notice he isn't feeling well and to try to do something about it, this is unheard of to him. And this makes Akito fall in love with Sana even more. Of course, Sana is alarmed by Akito's sudden kiss, upset because she was saving her first kiss for Rei. Akito calls her a moron, as Sana still believes that Rei is actually her real boyfriend, since Akito knows the truth of the situation and thinks Sana's stupid for not being able to recognize that Rei does not love her in that way. In response to Akito's kiss the next day at school, Sana creates a device to put around her waist to keep Akito at a distance, since he said the reason he kissed her was because she got too close to his face. Unfortunately, this plan is ridiculous and doesn't work as Sana can't even get through the door to use the bathroom. It's after this when she looks at Akito sternly and asks him why he kissed her, when they are interrupted by their teacher telling the class to settle down. Later that day, Misako asks Rei to bring Akito to the house, and she begins an interrogation. It turns out all she was interested in was seeing what he looked like and telling him to take care of Sana. As Akito is leaving, he is confronted by Sana and her dogs. Akito asks Sana if the kiss he gave her was really that bad, to which she replies that it was and she never wants it to happen again. While Akito reacts in an angry manner by kicking the nearby gate, it's apparent that he was very hurt by Sana telling him this. In that moment, Akito probably felt rejected by her, and frustrated that she doesn't understand love and what expressions of affection mean, considering how she perceives her relationship with Rei. During school the next day, Sana meets Tsuyoshi's little sister Aono, who is trying to hatch a chick from an egg she got from the grocery store. During lunch break, Sana goes and buys a real baby chick and plans on putting it in her purse and taking the egg out when she isn't looking. Akito tells her that this is a bad idea, that Aono will believe that she can hatch a chick from any grocery store egg, and that later in life she will feel stupid about it. Sana reflects on her mother's words from years ago about how reality isn't always nice and it's best to enjoy childhood and deal with the harsh truths of reality when you grow up. Sana strongly disagrees with Akito and believes Aono should continue to have her dreams until she is an adult. Sana puts the chick in Aono's purse and it makes her day. This is another moment that conveys one of the biggest themes in Volume 2, the differences between childhood and adulthood, and facing truth, even if it's difficult. This also showcases another one of the many differences between Sana and Akito. Akito is prone to be more logical in situations, thinking ahead and what will be the best course of action for the future. Sana, however, is more idealistic and considers how people will feel before she makes a decision. Even if there will be future consequences, she strongly believes there is a time and place for dealing with them. Her reaction to Aono's egg is a good example of this, how she believes that Aono should deal with the harsh truths as an adult and enjoy her childhood and her dreams in the present moment. Akito doesn't believe in this, as he feels it's more beneficial for people to move past their dreams and false realities and embrace the truth, even if it's painful. It makes me think of how Akito reacted to Sana's bungee jumping contest back in Volume 1, and how he knew there would be no way out of the situation and needed to go through with it, or else he would appear weak to the other boys in class. So he tackled his fear even though it was hard to deal with. After school, Sana sees that Asako has been to the Kurata household. She comes in and confronts Rei, when Misako intervenes and asks Sana if she really loves Rei and if she really understands what a gigolo is. Unable to answer the question, Sana looks at her mother in confusion and anger, as Misako tells her that she's not in love with Rei, and that she treats him like a favorite toy. Misako seems to be very amused by Sana's obliviousness, while Rei seems to feel bad about the situation that he put her in by pretending to be her boyfriend. Devastated, Sana leaves the house and runs off crying. Akito notices Sana running past as he is leaving a store and stops her, very concerned since she is crying. Sana remembers Aono's egg and compares it to her situation with Rei, beginning to understand how much it hurts to live in a false reality. Akito and Sana sit down to talk about what has happened, as Akito bluntly says to Sana that he told her so, still carrying his disdain for Rei. Sana acknowledges how her and Akito are complete opposites, commenting that she finds it frustrating while Akito finds it funny that the two seem to disagree on everything. Again, we are reminded of just how different these two are, which leaves us wondering where their relationship is going to go from here. It's shortly after this when Akito confesses that he feels embarrassed about the way he used to be. Sana teases him and mentions how much of a jerk he was in the past, when Akito points out that Sana is still sitting with him despite his troublesome past. This conversation really drives home the point Akito is making here, how people can still care about each other even if there is conflict between them or if they've hurt one another. Intended or not, I think Akito's words here are a reflection of what he learned from Sana in the previous chapters. Being abused and neglected by his family for so long, he had to learn that his situation wasn't permanent, and that his family dynamic would improve if everyone took the time to forgive and understand one another. This is one of the most pivotal moments early on in the series, as it shows a major growth in both central characters. Sana is noticing the duality that exists within every person instead of labeling them as good or bad, and also begins to understand the importance of self-awareness and awareness of the internal struggles within the people around her. I think Sana has always been very good at noticing and helping others who are in turmoil, but her situation with Rei showed her that personal feelings can blind us from the truth. Akito is learning to take accountability for his mistakes, and despite his harsh words regarding Rei, I think Akito understands that Rei isn't a bad person for how he was treating Sana. Before Sana and Akito go back to their home, Sana asks Akito why he kissed her during the field trip, and Akito replies with the infamous line, "I don't hate you." Sana reflects on this and their entire conversation as she heads home, wondering what he meant by that statement, but also considering how he took the time to listen to her problems. She quote-unquote breaks up with Rei, and while I think she isn't completely healed in the days after this, I think she has a better grasp on what romantic love is. It's a cluster of emotions that's hard to put a label on, and a lot of times it can happen without people even realizing it. A few days later, Sana runs into Akito's dad, who is bringing home sushi for the family. He tells Sana that it's Akito's favorite food, and the first time he ate it, he said to his dad that he didn't hate it, meaning that he loves it. As always, this leaves Sana confused and thinking that Akito loves her like food, and I find it so funny that Sana can still be this dense, even after everything that has happened up to this point. But after all, she is still pretty young, so I can't blame her. Later that evening, Sana gets a phone call from Akito. He is at the hospital with his sister as his dad coughed up a lot of blood during dinner. Fearful that he could be dying, Sana rushes to the hospital. Sana's inner monologue is interesting here, as Akito never asked her to come and she justifies in her mind that she's only going to the hospital because she cares about his dad. I find it odd that she's possibly denying any caring feelings she has for Akito. The only reason I could come up with for this dialogue being here is that she's still guarding herself heavily since she's still hurt from the situation with Rei. Meanwhile at the hospital, Natsumi is crying and upset with Akito for acting so calm and cold. The striking difference in how Akito acts around Sana once she arrives speaks volumes. With Natsumi, Akito maintains his usual cool exterior. When Sana arrives, Akito breaks down and shows how worried he is about his father, dropping his calm and collected act. It shows us just how much he trusts Sana by being completely vulnerable with her. This is also the scene that contains what I consider to be one of the most important lines of dialogue in the entire series. Hayama and I like to think we're so grown up. Something like this makes us realize we're still just kids. Without our parents, we'd have no idea what to do. If I had to sum up the series in one quote, I think this would be the one. It conveys the overarching theme of coming of age and realizing that you don't have all the answers in life even if you think you do, something I think many children and teens experience. One similarity that Sana and Akito share is the fact that both of them have confidence in their beliefs, which I discussed in detail in my last video, but in this moment, Sana realizes just how small the both of them really are, and how they've never experienced life without someone to guide them. This really shows us the impact parents and adults have on our lives while we're growing up. I think this situation is especially heartbreaking for Akito since he's finally starting to feel some kinship with his family. Luckily, Akito's dad is going to be okay. As Sana is getting ready to depart, Akito apologizes. Sana realizes that he's probably trying to thank her for coming to him, starting to understand that Akito is never blunt when it comes to his deepest feelings in his heart. Sana is extremely busy with her acting in the upcoming days, starring in at least 7 commercials. She unfortunately misses her friend Hisei's birthday party, which angers her and her other friends to the point where they refuse to talk to her. A note is being passed throughout the classroom that says no one should talk to Sana. Akito sees it and starts a fight with the boys in the bathroom who are talking about ignoring Sana along with the other girls. The fight is broken up by Mr. Tanaka, who tells Sana about the note and how it made Akito angry enough to start the fight in the bathroom. After the tension dies down and the two are alone, Sana thanks Akito for sticking up for her. Akito, of course, denies this and claims he was doing it for himself, that he should be the only lone wolf in the school. Sana strongly doubts this, knowing the real reason behind Akito's behavior. I absolutely love the moment at the end of this conversation when Sana reflects on how the two are always there for each other when they need someone the most. Sana is able to make up with her friends, while Aya asks Akito where Tsuyoshi is. The volume ends on a cliffhanger, leaving readers wondering what bad news Akito received from the teachers about Tsuyoshi. One of the most beautifully written volumes in the series, Volume 2 builds on the budding relationship between Sana and Akito, not only deepening their feelings for one another, but also their understanding of themselves, the world around them, and what love is. However, we are still left wondering if Sana truly feels anything romantic for Akito. Let's now take an even deeper look into the events of Volume 2 to better understand where Sana and Akito are at in their growth and relationship. Before we take another look at the psychological theory of development created by Erickson that I discussed in my previous video, I would like to bring up a different topic that I feel best helps us to understand Sana and Akito in Volume 2. The idea and individual perception of romantic love is a heavy topic in this volume that wasn't explored in the previous installment. This is going to be a common theme throughout the series of Kodocha, but since it's being introduced now, I would like to bring up a new psychological theory to use as framework that we can refer to when analyzing these two characters. This theory is relatively new in the field of psychology and can be used to explain how people give and receive love. The theory of the 5 love languages was proposed by American author Gary Chapman in his book of the same name in 1992. The 5 love languages are as follows: words of affirmation, quality time, gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. It's interesting to note that while Chapman does not have an extensive background in psychology, his theory was deemed to have psychometric validity according to a study done by psychological researchers in 2006. This means that the love languages is something that can be measured and arranged using statistical data. I also agree that this theory has some validity, as I have observed that there are clear preferences in how people express their love and what love expresses to them. Even beyond Sana and Akito, we see preferences when it comes to love with the other characters. For example, Tsuyoshi is seen a few times during the series falling in love with any girl who will give him a present, and this could be evidence that his love language is gift-giving. But today, we will be applying this theory to Sana and Akito. I would like to preface this with the notion that people don't necessarily fall into one category, but can be observed to have multiple love languages or preferences. With that being said, let's first take a look at Akito's love languages. Firstly, we can rule out words of affirmation, since he is someone who prefers expressing any emotion, including love, with actions instead of words. However, it might be possible that he needs to receive words of affirmation. This is something I would like to explore as we get further into the series. I would argue that Akito's way of expressing his love is through physical touch. What solidifies this for me is how Akito's emotions are so overwhelming, to the point where he needed to kiss Sana on that field trip after she spilled the drink on him. Like I mentioned before, Akito views Sana as a maternal figure, and because of that felt safe and secure in that moment, knowing she was looking out for him when he wasn't feeling well. I would also argue that Akito expresses his love with quality time as well, as later on in the volume, many of the romantic moments between the two characters are shared in a one-on-one setting. Akito appears to be more guarded in situations where the two are surrounded by other people. We first see evidence that he prefers quality time with Sana when the two talk about their problems when Sana finds out that Rei isn't actually her boyfriend, and Akito confesses to his embarrassment regarding his previous actions at school. Even though Akito is not a talker like Sana, he appears to get more out of a conversation if it involves more intimate matters. He is not going to bombard Sana with "I love yous" or anything like that. This is also apparent in the way he expresses himself with words. After Sana asks him why he kissed her, he doesn't tell her he loves her or has feelings for her, but instead says something that has more meaning in his mind. To Akito, I think simple "I love yous" and cliche words of affirmation are meaningless to him, because they are things said so many times in relationships, so he sees them as statements that don't have any true value. Overall, I believe Akito primarily expresses his love through physical touch, but also enjoys quality time, which we will see going forward in the series. As for how he likes to receive love, I think we will need a little more time before we can discuss that in depth. Moving on to Sana, when it comes to love languages, I would say that the biggest ones for her are words of affirmation and acts of service. Acts of service is the love language seen early on in the series, as far back as the first half of Volume 1, always trying to help Akito and anyone else who's in need. Sana is also very vocal about how she feels, and we see this with how she treats Rei. She's always telling Rei and other people how in love she is with him. Another love language Sana could possess is gift-giving. How Sana prefers to receive love is a bit more clear than Akito at this point. I think Sana prefers to receive love similar to how she gives it. She responds best to words of affirmation. During the drama between Sana, Rei, and Asako, Sana needed to hear from Rei that she was the most important person in his world. It also shows in how Sana reacts to Akito's expression of love. She seems very perplexed by it. While both of our protagonists are still very young and are learning what love means, their love languages will change and grow throughout the series. I wanted to apply this theory here because it gives an explanation as to why Sana and Akito have trouble understanding each other, since their communication style in terms of love are very different. As our two main characters develop throughout the series, so does their love language and their ability to perceive them in others. In my last video, I discussed psychologist Erik Erickson's stages of psychosocial development, with a heavy focus on the first 4 stages. If you would like more information on this theory, please go and watch the first video in the series or read the article linked in the description below. Volume 2 is where the building blocks of Sana and Akito's relationship really begin to come together. Volume 1 does an excellent job at establishing where the characters are within the framework of Erickson's theory and on their individual terms, but now in Volume 2 we are shifting our focus on the relationship and romance between Sana and Akito. In terms of the theory, we won't be exploring it much in depth again until we learn more about Sana's history, but I did want to briefly touch on it here for continuity's sake. In the last video, I went through the 4 stages of development with Sana and Akito, skipping the first few stages for Sana in order to follow the story accurately. Using the model, we can see that both characters are in Stage 4, Industry versus Inferiority, and are heading into Stage 5, Identity versus Role Confusion. This stage takes place during the entirety of one's teenage years, approximately between the ages of 12 and 18. Stage 5 is all about finding one's identity and understanding our own strengths and weaknesses. To relate it back to the 5 love languages I discussed earlier, our protagonists are learning what love is within themselves and within others. True exploration of their identities has not taken place yet, but we can see the beginnings of Stage 5 within Sana and Akito through their interest and understanding of the roles they play in other people's lives, and who they truly are, which will be explored even further in the upcoming chapters. Volume 2 shows great promise of the impending romance between Sana and Akito. Mangaka Miho Abana is able to include so many different themes in such a small amount of pages, ranging from the meaning of love, the importance of truth, and the confusion that comes with growing up. Our two main characters are just now making sense of what love is, even if they have a long way to go. Sana's illusion of love with Rei has been broken, and now she is left with a lot of inner work and processing to do, while Akito is starting to feel true love for the first time, in my opinion, and acts on instinct without realizing that the one he loves can't understand his forms of expression, which leaves him in a state of frustration. Being in love and coming of age is something many of us have experienced or are experiencing, and it's a deadly combination considering the physical and mental changes that occur at this time. As we go through so many changes all at once, we have to realize that those around us are experiencing changes in their own way that aren't always graceful or compatible with our way of being, and it takes time and pain to reach the best version of ourselves, as well as more stable relationships. Through our basic human biology and interaction with our environment, these years that Sana and Akito are beginning to experience are a time of learning about ourselves and what love is, which is at the core of Kodocha's story. I can't wait to explore these themes further throughout my video series, and I hope my videos convey just how deep these characters go, as they are a good reflection and representation of real life. I also hope you learned something interesting you didn't know before watching these videos. Please let me know if you have your own theories about Sana and Akito, or about the story of Kodocha in general. As I have said before, I love discussing this series with others, so please like, comment, and subscribe for more. Volume 3 will hopefully be out before the end of this year. Thank you for watching. See ya!